All right, adventure time, story time.
Should we wait until we pull out on the highway?
We can start talking. I can multitask.
Okay.
So why are we making this video, Sarah? Why are we in the car on Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m.?
Because we are going shopping for hopefully a new house.
Mm-hmm.
Out of town, in Belleville or Brenham.
Yep. And we made this joint decision more than 12 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yes.
About? Yeah. When we actually got engaged in Ireland, and we told each other that we would be leaving Kingwood as soon as both of our kids went off to college.
That is true.
And now we are manifesting that destiny.
Yes.
We chose about 4 months ago to clean up the house, declutter, and put it on the market. Worked really hard to get that done, mostly Sarah. And then we sold the house in 4 days after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And it's been a crazy adventure ever since.
Yes. It's definitely been a lot. I mean, we both grew up in Kingwood. You lived in Austin for a long time, and I ended up coming back to Kingwood and really have always wanted to leave Kingwood. And then now the timing is right. It's not easy. I mean, both of us have businesses in Kingwood, and I mean, I have 38 years of connections and network in Kingwood, and so the logistics are much more complicated than I anticipated. But we kind of talked, and we were talking to my dad, who's done real estate for a long time, and he was like, I think if you want to get out of Kingwood, priority time is now to go, and otherwise you'll probably want to hold on to your house so it can, have good value. And so
obviously, given where the real estate market is and is going,
yeah,
with interest rates and all that fun stuff,
and it's cyclical, right? And so we wanted to sell our house while we're in this part of the cycle
on the upside.
But in order to sell high and buy low, there's an interim where you're homeless.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're not technically homeless. We're just living in a home that we want less of, which is an apartment in the front of Kingwood. So, and it's that in itself is
it's a sacrifice we've had to make to hopefully make this work.
But the really neat thing is when we put the house up on the market, we both prayed about the house being such a blessing to us in the season of life that we were in.
Raising our kids. Raising
the kids. Sarah was a single mom when she bought it. It just really kind of was a safe place for us to be.
And it was a fabulous place to raise kids.
And we took great care of it. It took great care of us. We had our ups and downs. We had a air conditioning unit that flooded the downstairs, got brand new floors out of that, some carpets upstairs. We had, just little things like that we were able to, triumph over together with the house. And we both prayed that, how great that house was for us, what could it be for the next person? And we really wanted it to go to someone that would need it and could use it for good, not just some property management company that's going to buy it and rent it out to somebody in Kingwood, cause the housing market to go even worse.
Well, and one of the things that I was really struggling with was I get attached to things, our vehicles and houses and stuff, and like our kids drove the car that I brought them home in their car seats in, so I just get attached to things. But when I was packing up and boxing up and cleaning out the house and getting it ready for the market, I had a kind of a memory of Mary Poppins.
I wonder if this is in the way of the camera.
Is it?
It might be. I can't tell because I don't have it.
Why would it be? That's sad.
Yeah, but it's widescreen. It might be blocking your face.
Well, I need to put my makeup on.
Okay.
So I started remembering Mary Poppins and how when the wind changes, she flows into the family that needs her and does her work. And then once they're up and running and on their own, or time for the next season, or the wind changes, she's off. She floats away and she goes to the next family. And I kind of started picturing the house like that, like Mary Poppins, you know, like while we, you know, we kind of floated in and she did for us what we needed, and, you know, we took care of her, and then we'd float out, kind of like Mary Poppins, and that kind of gave me the inspiration or the courage to let it go.
Yeah.
And know that there will be, you know, a new house and new memories. And I actually had a really cool experience the day that we closed. I was feeling kind of emotional, and I had a client come in who I hadn't seen in almost a year, and we got to talking, and they did almost exactly what we did. They sold their house that was not only where this particular client raised her family, but where she was raised, and she ended up selling it because they wanted property like we do, and also had to live in an apartment also for 7 months, and
had a couple of dogs and a couple of cats.
Yes, all
and
the
Frank
things.
kitties.
Yes, and so I think that was really encouraging too. Like, okay, we can do this. It's not that, you know, not that out of the realm, because some reactions that I get from people are like, you're doing what, you know? So.
And it's neat too, like when we did put the house on the market, you know, we did not expect the house to sell in 4 days.
It was
we
actually
thought
3. But...
we thought we would have, you know, a handful of weeks or even a month or two where we'd be showing the house and keeping it clean, and
which I was glad for that part.
Kind of figuring out what's next, and, you know, things along those lines. And then when it happened so quickly, we went into, well, let's make this happen. Thankfully, the gentleman that bought it, single dad, recently divorced, needed a place that was going to be close to where his previous home was for his kid, and it just worked out really well that it went to someone that I think is going to be able to utilize the house and in a phase in life that we were familiar with. But the nice thing was, he didn't want to close until January 19th, which means that we got to basically have the holidays for the last time in the house and begin packing and kind of do things in a longer term than just closing the next week and getting the heck out of there. So that was nice. But, you know, we tried to do a lot of shopping, and we spend pretty much, I'd say, an hour plus each on Realtor.com, HAR.com, whatever websites we can go to, scouring the countryside for our next home, our next homestead, as much as possible. And, you know, we found a few that we really liked, but nothing that kind of just set us over the edge.
Well, and our dollar just isn't going as far when we leave Kingwood.
Correct. But we are watching that dollar get more valuable.
Yeah, prices are dropping.
As the months have gone on. We are seeing a lot of these houses that we wish we could have actually coming closer to where we could possibly have.
Like, some have dropped 100,000. I've seen 75,000. I've seen 25,000.
Yeah.
I've seen 16,000.
And that kind of goes in line with what was going on, you know, in our similar situation, right? These people, or some people, are putting these houses out there just to see if they can get some California cash, buy their property real quickly, and then they'll go do something else, you know? Or, in their, you know, same vein, if they don't sell the house, they'll just stay. Like, they don't care. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what we're running into. There's some need to sells, and a lot of it'd be nice if we could sell for as much money as possible. So, but
and what I'm seeing now happen is, you know, when there was the California cash, they come in and they're like, oh, this price is great, and they have cash, and it doesn't matter if it appraises for that or not. Whereas now, if you're you know, if you need to carry a mortgage, then if it doesn't appraise, you've got to come up with that difference in funding, or the deal falls through. So I'm seeing, whereas before it was like houses were going so fast, top dollar, above asking price, above appraisal price, and gone. But now they might move quickly, but they're coming back on the market in a couple weeks.
Yep. Because
maybe funding fell through and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And then we're also seeing the ones with the ridiculous asking prices sitting on the market for 60 days, 120 days, 200 days, yes. So.
And so we're patiently watching some of those to see. And there's a few that we found that we would love to be able to make happen, but they're just not quite there yet.
But I guess for me, there's a couple different options going on now. My original goal was I wanted to get out of town and experience kind of a small town life and have some property and be in a different part of Texas that just is so beautiful. However, as we've gone shopping, there are some other opportunities that show up too, like could we buy a fixer-upper and sell it in a couple years, you know? Or do we want to make like a real homestead, or both, you know?
And then the neat thing too, we went and did some looking. I guess it was right before we put the house on the market. We went to kind of drive around Brenham and Giddings and places like that to kind of look and see if there were any houses that we liked or were on our radar. And we kind of fell into Belleville a little bit.
How did we find Belleville?
Because, well, it was funny. We fell into Belleville because of the Kraut House or whatever.
What?
Kornhauser House or whatever. The one that was falling in.
Actually, yeah. And when I went to that retreat last year, I met a lady from Belleville, and then I checked out Belleville, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cute.
Yeah, and we had gone to that house out of the blue. Like, it wasn't really on our list of places to go see until the very end of the day. It was the last one we went to on our way back. And we were like, yeah, well, it's only like 15 minutes up the road. Let's go check it out. We drove out there.
Because that was when we weren't really looking at houses. We were just looking on ATR and kind of getting a lay of the land.
Yep, just seeing what the small towns kind of look like. And we actually, that day, we didn't even drive into Belleville. We just went to this house that was on the outskirts of Belleville. And then we liked the house, and we liked the property, and we got interested in it. And sadly enough, that house needs to be knocked down, and someone needs to build a house on 30-foot tall stilts to be able to make it in where it is, because it's so close to the floodplain. But a few weeks later, we went back and we went to Hempstead. Well, we were on our way to go look at houses in Belleville, and we were driving in. We were cutting through Hempstead to get there, and Sarah says, "Hey, I noticed there's an open house over here.
Oh, yeah.
Should we check it out?" And we were like 5 minutes away from this open house, and it was late in the day, so we were kind of getting there a little bit later than the open house is going to be open, but we were going to get there within like 2 minutes of 3 o'clock. So I said, yeah, let's go do it. So we turned and ran over there and got to this house, and it was the cutest possible house.
That's my favorite house we've seen so far.
They did such a fantastic job renovating this house, and it was from 1852, I think.
No, 1890s.
No, it was registered with the county in 1852.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said it could be even older than that. But the house itself was relatively well maintained. It looked great on the outside for the most part.
And the inside.
Inside was beautiful, and they did a fantastic job remodeling and turning this house into a fun little, living area for a mom who homeschooled her 2 kids and a dad who was in construction with 3 kids. Yeah. But it was in Hempstead, and we didn't know anything about Hempstead at the time, and we kind of drove through it, not really enamored with Hempstead.
It's just, the downtown isn't as revitalized, and one of my friends said it this way, and I think she nailed it. She said it's a town who's lost its identity, because it used to be a farm town, and it had a lot of activity, and now it's not a farm town, but it hasn't quite discovered what it's going to be. It's a town that people just pass through. Yeah. And it's wild. You'd think it would be ideal to revitalize because it's so commutable for us, for Austin, but it hasn't quite done that yet. And whereas in some other towns you're seeing proof of that, in Hempstead you're not really seeing proof of that quite yet.
So, but the house itself was, the outside of the house was awesome too. They had a chicken coop, they had
These
a garden,
200-year-old oak trees that
massive
are
oak
insane.
trees. Yeah, I mean, it was a really good, it was what we were looking for, just not in the right place,
Yes.
right? It's exactly the home that we would have literally bought on the spot if it had been anywhere but Hempstead.
Well, and here's where I go back to on that. It was actually like jumped off the springboard of the dream board of my heart. And so most of me wanted to be like, yes, 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 here it is, and it's in our budget, what? However, there was this little small check that was like, I don't know. And we both felt that, and you kind of said, I feel like this isn't quite it. And I had to agree. And now I kind of have this tug of war in my mind. I'm like, is that kind of a blip on the radar to see, like, do you just take what you can get, or do you have the faith to hold out and expect what, the full package? Or am I just literally watching my dream and not reaching and not grabbing it? Like, is it right there in front of me and I'm not grabbing it because I'm being too picky? So I have this like mental tug of war that goes back and forth.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because we both walked into that house and we were like, okay.
I know,
like this.
and weirdly separately, because
Okay.
you went one way and I went the other way, and then we kind of re-met outside in the garden, and
we can make this happen.
and I was like, Jay's like, I don't hate it, and I'm like, I kind of love it. And so that's the only thing I do go back and forth on that.
But then we
And it would have put us out of the misery of moving twice to an apartment and somewhere else. Like, there would have been a lot of conveniences.
True. But then after that, after we went and saw that house, we went to, that's when we truly found Belleville, right? So there was there was like a farm day or something, or the local
It was
market.
Market.
Some kind of fall festival or something going on.
Like a Christmas market.
Yeah. So we went into Belleville and we walked around Town Square and just immediately fell in love with it. It's what we grew up with as kids, going to small town Texas, and it reminded me a lot of Kaufman and Granbury, and just being in a fun environment with a lot of people that care about their town and love being there. And it was just neat to see all the shops downtown around the courthouse and all that stuff. And there's a brewery right on the square, which was awesome. And
yeah, and Jay was pumped. He went to the bathroom and I ordered 2 drinks, and she's like, you want them to go or for here? And I was like, you can do to go? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, you can walk around the square with it. And I was like, what? So then you come back and you see that there are to-go cups and we can walk around the square. You're like, I love them.
Deal. Let's do it. So we did. We fell in love with that small town atmosphere that day, and kind of set our sights on that's what we wanted. But then we also realized at the same time, looking at some of the houses, that the housing market in Belleville is much more expensive than the housing market in Brenham and Hempstead and the surrounding area. So we didn't find anything right off the bat that was going to be in our price range, but we did find a few that we might be able to hit if the owners would take a little bit of a lower price. And you came across the Thamer house.
That one's still on my radar. The thing we ran into with that is, I keep saying it's a house with a great personality, because it needs some cosmetic updates for sure. However, it has so much character. I know we could make that house so cute. But what I love about it is it's on a corner lot in town. So you're in town, but it's an acre. And there's the big house. Then there's a little house, which already has renters in it. And there's a covered area for the RV, already plumbed with water, electricity, and sewage. So that just feels perfect.
Yeah, we literally could have 3 homes on one site.
Yes, and it's still on the market. It's been on the market almost a year. The thing that made me have cold feet is we put an offer in, and we hadn't heard anything back for like 4 days, and they were trying to get us to use their inspector, which I was like, nope. Then we said, hey, can you reach out to the realtor and find out where they're at? And because we lowballed them, but they didn't say no. And then they said they're coming in to meet on Monday with the realtor. I'm like, who goes in to meet with their realtor to discuss? So that was kind of, maybe people still do, I don't know. And they still didn't ever get back to us. And then they still didn't get back to us. And when we reached out again, the realtor said, oh, they're crunching numbers. And we had a 10-day option period to get it inspected, and being out of town.
This was right before Christmas.
It was Christmas and New Year's. Yeah. And I didn't want them to say, okay, yes, and then not be able to get an inspector out there in those 10 days to inspect. So we pulled the offer, and they were like, thank you. Yeah. So I was like, do they really want to sell the house? I'm not sure. So it's still in the market. I haven't ruled it out, but I would definitely want to get it inspected. And because that house, honestly, a lot of it is great, but the master bathroom and bedroom situation is wild.
Yeah.
So it would definitely need some work. So we need to get it a little lower than they're asking. However, I actually think it would be a really fun house to revitalize.
It'd have a mother-in-law suite that we could utilize.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing about that house is it smelled like smoke.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can get smoke out, but I don't know how yet.
Yeah. But so, yeah, then we've just kind of been shopping ever since and trying to find the next, diamond in the rough. We revisited the Hempstead house again, really kind of thought about that one, and then we now are making this effort. After we moved into the apartment, we have set our sights on taking as many weekends as we can to do exactly this and drive out to the central Texas, or I guess the hill country of Texas. It's not even hill country. What was that?
It's the prairies, I think.
The prairies, okay. And just kind of
right before you get to the prairies, but
kind of see if we can, continue to find. And there's new houses coming up on the market every week. We've seen them pop up.
And we're hopeful for like March and spring to have some more options.
We're thinking in, mid to late February, early March, the house that the good Lord wants us to have is going to pop up, and we're going to be able to jump on it, make our contracts work, and be able to move and get ourselves out there by, April, May timeline at the latest.
Also, let's talk about Navasota a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
That was a little surprise because... But first, let's go through all the people who have suggested Navasota previously that we just kind of were like, oh, okay,
Blew off.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's where Jill Olson told us.
Jill and Chad both.
Yeah. Your friend that has the bar in Brenham.
Yep. Cameron.
Yeah.
Which they would be fun to be closer to. I think we both would get along with them pretty well.
Yeah, I loved what they were doing.
They're awesome.
Wine pairing and the education and stuff. That is right up my alley.
Fun entrepreneurs, and Cameron is freaking hilarious. So.
And cute, great little local dive, or local bar.
But Navasota.
Who else? I feel like it's come from
your Uncle Matt.
Yeah.
There's been a handful of other people that have talked about
I know.
I can't think of it.
And we are all kind of like, okay, yeah, however...
And what's funny is, I've gone to College Station for, like, my whole life.
Yeah.
Same with you. I don't think I ever drove through downtown Navasota.
Never.
Never. Until literally 3 weeks ago, when we were like, what in the heck? Where did this come from?
The downtown is so cute. Totally revitalized. Cute bars, restaurants, shops, all on the downtown. And what really pricked my interest is when you drive through the older neighborhood, you can tell it's getting turned over. There's either properties that are well maintained. There are properties that have been knocked down and something new and beautiful has been built in its place, or there are older properties that are getting restored.
Yep.
So those are, to me, are all signs of revitalization that I wasn't quite seeing it as much in Hempstead.
And our dollar is stretched a lot better in Navasota than it is in Belleville.
Yes.
I think both of us would prefer to make Belleville happen, but Navasota is definitely number 2 on the list, and then I would say Brenham's probably number 3.
Yes.
Because there's some cute places in Navasota around that area, and that corridor, the Aggie Highway going out there.
And it does seem like it might be a better commute for us.
Yeah. I mean, that whole setup right there is going to be a much easier.
Because you'd be getting off right here.
Yep.
Instead of 290.
Yep.
So.
Right here is 249, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
You can't see it on the camera.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, we fell into Navasota nicely, and it would be nice to, that I think is going to be our upcoming weekend will be spent in that kind of area.
What happened for me in Navasota was that my creative juices really got flowing. Like I was like, oh, we could do something. And Uncle Matt is close. He can be our builder if we want to add on to a property or renovate a property. So we don't have to depend on finding, people we don't know or can't trust and stuff. And so the options of being able to rehab something became very tangible. And then also what happened is, when you see areas get revitalized, like there's some really brave souls that go in first. I'm not one of those. However, this is right on the cusp of being an early adopter, but you're not the pioneer.
Yeah.
And I'm that person.
Yeah, and I think Navasota is definitely poised. I think realistically Belleville is going to be Belleville, and it's going to stay Belleville for a long time.
I think it'll hold its value the best. Yeah.
It's just not going to turn into anything more than what it is.
And there's a finite number of properties.
Yeah, and
it can't get bigger.
There is some new construction happening around there,
but it's all the same new. If you want what are those called? The non-custom homes.
The spec homes.
If you want a spec home, pick your dime a dozen. Pick them. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're affordable. They're everywhere. That is not what we are shopping for.
I think
because your backyard is literally the size of a postage stamp.
Yeah, and it'd be basically moving into the younger version of what we already had.
And what I'm a little intimidated by, but really drawn to, is I want an older house. I want a house with character. I don't want just a suburban square home with squares inside of squares. I want a little funky wood paneling. I want a little, or the charm of a craftsman. I want that, but it's a new learning curve as far as maintenance and having crawl space under a house. I mean, all that stuff is new to me.
Oh yeah. Just always hark back on the albatross that is the big house, honey.
Yeah, that's a completely different story and conversation.
Well, and I think Navasota is poised to be like, unfortunately, what Granbury is now in 10, 15 years from now. I think it's going to turn into a small town in itself.
I do too.
Into a small city.
I do too.
Because it's just kind of right at that turning point where you hit
the location.
Yeah, the Highway 6 going into College Station.
But what's so strange is I feel like Hempstead could do that too for its location, but it doesn't seem to be doing that. It's weird how towns do that.
I just think Hempstead's proximity to like Prairie View in that area are just going to keep it down.
I don't think anything.
Why? Because I just don't think, for some reason, that area hasn't really grown and done.
Well, to me, what is off-putting about Hempstead is when you